to order. And just by virtue of looking, we have three members. We have Phyllis Versteeg, Jan Hood is here, and myself. And
I just want to quickly, sorry,
not able to be here, and neither would our other fifth member, Ron.
I'm sorry, Vern, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to quickly make sure that IT is ready that they're recording. And
I'm sorry, I should have waited.
Nope, you're fine. We're not used to this, right? So just want to make sure that they have us as going live.
Fine.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, sorry about that.
Do we need to repeat this on the roll call? All right, thank you very much. Having that, we have no appearance by the members of the public, I don't believe. And we do have in front of us as the first item, the consent agenda, which is about $8,000 worth of payments. Any comments on that, Amy? Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you. You would think I would be used to that by now, right? Just that the 3 months that you guys are looking at, I did provide you with 3 months, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
That you will notice, so the normal auditor that provides this report, she's been out of the office, and so I have received this from someone else in the office. So the numbers are still correct, but you would be used to kind of seeing more of like, here's January, here's February, here's March. Whereas with this one, it's still per month, but there was a little bit of mixture of months when for each of those 3 month reports. And so the numbers are still correct, but I just wanted to point out, like, if you notice that it looks a little bit different than what it has in the past, that's the reason. So it's still good, but
the numbers end up okay.
Yep, the numbers are correct. It just was ran a little differently.
Okay, are there any questions on those payments then? If not, a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Phyllis.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Approved. Since we only have three, why everyone's going to be involved.
Can I interrupt here?
Yes.
So now that we're doing this virtually, we'll need a roll call vote on every item.
On every item. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy, would you call the roll on the consent agenda?
Sure, and thank you for that reminder, Samantha. Vern McGinnis,
Yes.
Phyllis Versteeg,
Yes.
and Jan Hood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion's approved. Then we have one for information, which was at the back of our filing, which is the calendar year 22 funding timeline. Any comments there? I think we've seen this before, but maybe you could walk us through it, Amy.
Sure, let me pull it up. So this is, and it's short, it's not very long, but this is just to get us through calendar year 22 funding. So today we're going to approve the funding for the remainder of 2021.
Which is a new entry, yeah.
Yep. And then when we come back in July, that will just be identifying focus areas for 22, reviewing bylaws, electing officers. And then in August, we'll release the RFP again for calendar year 22. And so, yep, that's just the schedule, getting everything approved as we're already thinking about calendar year 22 funding.
And then the big day would be the October 21st with presentations.
So the October 21st would be presentations. And so just a quick side note to plant the seed. We do have 7 agencies today that applied for the 2021, the remainder of the year funding, which is very exciting.
I think so too. I was going to comment on that.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. And I think 6 of those agencies are new to the table from compared to 2020, are new to the table. And so as we think about presentations, hopefully these agencies will fund or will apply for 2020 funding. And so as we think about those presentations, we'll really have more of a discussion in July on like what you guys want from those presentations, so we can make sure we respect everyone's time and get honed in on exactly what you guys are looking for.
And depending upon what's going on in the world, we'll have it in a virtual meeting again, or we would be live. Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions on this schedule then? Okay, thank you. We'll move then to approval of the programs that we have before us. And I agree with your comment, Amy. I was excited about that too. I was very, very pleased to know that we had some of these and the uniqueness in some of the programs themselves. So what would your ideas be, fellow board members? Do we want to take them one at a time and have some discussion, then kind of wrap that up when we get finished with that? So
I personally think it would be a good idea for us to go through them one by one, at least briefly,
sure.
because these are all new,
Yep.
maybe not new, totally new programs, but they're all new to us.
Yes. Yep.
So I don't think we need, I doubt that we need a long discussion, but I think I'd like to at least hear.
I think this is the way to go. If you'd seen this sheet, which listed them 1 through 7, before we
Right.
began, I think maybe Amy and I had a little bit of a huddle before, and looking at okay, what was the makeup of the 377 funding number, which was 368.93, and then we had some modifications to make to the actual budget request on 2 of the agencies. So maybe, Amy, if you could kind of consolidate what you and I talked about, so we've got it in our head what the money is to start with, and then what it is for each of these agencies, particularly the 2 that we have an amended number for.
Okay, sure. So starting off, for funding available, for these agencies for funding available, there's 360,893 available to be able to fund. And so what Vernon and I talked about, like, where did this money come from? And so about 65,000 of it came from 2021 money that has not been allocated yet. And then let me go back. And then all right, I had to pull it back up. There's so many numbers and things.
The next one was the Mark 1st unused.
Yep. So the next one, let me make sure I have the correct amount. It will just take 1 second. I closed my email to make sure it wasn't popping up during our meeting, and then that closed out where my numbers were at. Okay. So approximately $129,000 was for Mark 1st that was not expended in 2020. And then about 170,000 was the money that was in your fund balance. So that's where you see on that worksheet, that is where the 360,000 that would be available, that's where that amount of money came from. And then Vern, was there other specifications that you wanted, or other clarification you wanted?
In this case, it would only be a change in the requested number from number 4 Bridgeway.
Okay.
It's not 62,678, it's 47,009.
Excuse me, you want to say that again?
Yes, instead of Bridgeway at 62,678, the actual number now today is 47,009.
What caused that, or what's the change?
So on their budget, they had 2 different lines. They had what it would be, what they would request, or what it would cost for 12 months, and what it would cost for 9 months. And so I pulled from the 12-month instead of the 9-month. And so
So
Vern caught that.
This
So
is
there's
a,
not a change necessarily.
it's just a 9-month, okay.
Yes.
And I'm going to share my screen where it has those numbers that we're working with.
You have that.
This shows the update. So this one has the update on Bridgeway, the correction from your packet.
And then the total is 155.
So the total funding that was requested is 205,000. And then the money available is 360,000. So if you guys funded all of the programs at the full request, you would still have over $155,000 in your fund balance.
Okay, I think
As compared, and
that helps and cleans it up.
question is,
Yeah, go ahead, fellas.
I have a question. So instead, currently we have 170 in the fund balance, and if we grant all of these as requested, we would then have 155. Is that correct?
Well, it's a little bit confusing. With the 170,000, that was what was in the fund balance in 2020. But the
Right.
money Mark first didn't use in 2020, that got carried into the fund balance. So in 2021, you have, in the fund balance in 2021, you have 295,000.
Oh.
But you are correct in that if you, looking from like 2020, the 170,000 that was in the fund balance versus 2021, if you approve all of the programs, it would be a little over 155,000 moving forward in the fund balance.
Could we have a copy of that sheet, the corrected
Yes.
one? And I think Gary did it too, yeah. Print it.
Yes, you can have, I'll email you guys a copy of the corrected sheet.
That'd be good, thank you. You have us on the whiteboard. Is that what you want to do, Amy?
No, that is not what I want to do. So I was going to go ahead and email it. Let me go ahead and email it and then I'll open it back up. Sorry
Okay.
about
That's okay.
technology and doing these things live gets a little bit confusing.
It's a challenge.
Yes, it really is. So this is the corrected application overview.
Okay.
Right, and then I'll open it back up and then share that again. Okay, we should be on track.
Okay.
Okay, if we start with the list that you had just had there, that would begin with Autism McLean County on the train, which is Targeted Resources and Information Network. So, questions, comments, discussion?
Yeah, I was pleased to see this because I think what I was picking up and what I've learned from the past, that there's not good communication among all the different agencies that are doing this kind of service in front of the school districts. And looks like maybe this organization is trying to do that. Am I interpreting that right? Okay.
That was the impression I got, Jan, and I think
Yeah.
this is a very impressive proposal to me because it's all volunteer.
Right.
So I'm pretty impressed with this, and anything that we can do to increase communication between these groups is a real asset,
Yeah.
I think.
I agree with that.
So as I understand it, this Autism McLean is trying to do just that, just get some,
Right.
the same information out to everybody, which is critical.
And the gentleman that's in charge of it, is the former head of the Unit 5 Special Education Program, so very knowledgeable.
Yeah,
So I'm in favor of this
we
one.
have no existing staff. We contract with board members and professionals in the community, so,
Yeah,
Right.
which when you're finished with them or whatever, while you're done with it, yeah.
Right.
And it's
So
really
anyway, I'm in
connected
favor of
back,
this one.
I think, with the Autism Society.
I wonder, do we know if he's putting in some kind of, if this in a written form? I mean, if he's trying to put something together to pass out to all these agencies? If he is, it'd be wonderful to get a copy of that. But that's, I wonder if that's really happening, because that's kind of expensive too, to do all that.
So I stopped sharing my screen or else it gets confusing. So I can look back at their grant. So their grant application. And so in their grant application, they discuss that, so as far as like from the best of my memory, and kind of quickly reviewing it again, they discuss that their plan is to provide agencies, community members, areas to provide them with PowerPoints, presentations. And so that's what this grant is really requesting, is to be able to have the resources, the financial resources to develop 3 to 6 voiceover PowerPoints, develop an electronic resource list by transition stages.
Probably, okay.
So conduct 1 to 3 trainings per
Right.
parent. So yes, there would be all of these things, and they're requesting money for copying. So these things would be available in written documentation.
Very good.
And recruiting a small number of businesses to help with.
Mhm.
Mhm. When they're serving, I thought it said they were serving about 200 members, which is like 2,500 clients. So, I mean, that's amazing right there to
Mhm.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's not a large request.
We're anxious to hear the next go around to see if he applies again, what their success was.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think within this, we're also learning maybe again that there may well be a role for the 377 and this group to do a better job of connecting some of the agencies and trying to do some things. And maybe that's part of the project that you're going to be looking at, Amy, for that. But okay, does that take care of Autism McLean? I found that to be very positive for us.
Mhm.
Okay. Best Buddies, Financial Fridays.
I was pretty impressed with this too. The only thing is, the only thing about this that I saw that was a little outstanding is that they serve everybody, whether they're IDDD or not.
I saw that too,
But,
yeah.
But they are also, I mean, they are serving our population now, so.
And they did put in the application
Not
that
included.
specific, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry, Jan or Phyllis. They did put it in the application that the funding that they're requesting would be specific to individuals that have some type of developmental disability. So as an agency as a whole, yes, they do serve more than individuals that just have a developmental disability. But for this specific program, it would only the client eligibility requirements would be you'd have to have a developmental disability or a delay.
Okay.
And we would be
that's great.
providing 100% of the funding, which I think goes back to some of the discussion we've had on seed money. So this would help to
Right.
launch that program. And then we can see in another year whether or not there's anything to do with funding that or getting some other collaboration and bringing in some other people. So, yeah, I found that to be interesting as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, this is a good idea.
It is, right?
Everybody needs financial help these days.
Right.
Well, it's an important part of someone's life, whether it's developmental or not. And yeah.
Right.
Okay, the Boys and Girls Club, which is a big request.
Yep.
I do also have some additional information on the Boys and Girls Club request. And so for a member's request to get that information, so I'm going to pull that up very quickly. So that program, just kind of like as we discussed about the other program, as an agency, Boys and Girls Club does provide services to children that do have developmental disabilities, and they also provide services to children that do not. And so in their grant, they talked about what the program would entail, but I did follow up with them to ask if the funding from the 377 board, if they were to receive funding from the 377 board, would the participants of that funding have a developmental disability or a developmental delay? Because it's kids, and so sometimes that diagnosis, you want to wait as long as you can for that diagnosis. But anyways, their answer was yes. So it would be an include, and so I did send you guys an email this morning that it wasn't very much noticed, but I did send an email with some of the response just stating yes. The 377 funding would be specific to those children that have developmental disability or a developmental delay. And so the program would be, they said currently the program has 290 registered members or kids. 83 of those kids, or 29% of them, have an IEP. And so what they're requesting is funding to expand this program to an additional 50 kids, and the additional 50 kids would have a developmental disability or a developmental delay, and they already have they already have almost 90 kids currently that could receive additional services that have a developmental disability or delay. So those 50 would already exist, but they would just be able to provide further services to them.
So they're not being served right now.
So they're part of Boys and Girls Club, but as is stated in the application, this program would provide services from a therapist. So in 2019, they started a new program providing mental health services to youth 5 to 18 years of age through ABC counseling. So they want to evolve this program and expand this program. So the additional 50 kids that have a developmental delay or diagnosis, that yes, they're not receiving the services from the therapist yet. So they're members of Boys and Girls Club, but specific to the program they're receiving funding, no, they're not receiving services right now.
This is one of their foundation programs right now for the whole club. And of course, they're looking at this for kids that are in poverty and maybe some challenges of self-concern and what on. But I'm glad you followed back up, because I was thinking this wasn't the case that they are targeting specifically. But that's a good number to add into this than what they're already doing, which is with people with disabilities or slowness. Yes.
Yes, and so I think so that was their plan. So when I reached out to them, they're like, yes, we know that 377 funding is specific to this population. And so I think it's, just as we have new agencies coming to the table, they just need sometimes a little bit of assistance with like the language and the wording and really pinpointing what the 377 board needs. And so yes, I'm definitely glad that we reached out to get clarification.
And this is a really good agency. I mean, they really do a good job.
Yeah. This was one of the ones that was definitely exciting because of the inclusiveness. Like kids that don't have a developmental disability, they can learn about kids that are different and how do you act or respond and kind of just feed their curiosity. And the kids that do have a developmental disability, it shows them like, it just gives them the chance to interact with kids in a new way. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you clarified all this, Amy,
Yeah.
because, it's been a concern to us. And I agree with what Vern said. This is a group that has had a really good reputation community-wise, I think. And I'm glad we are able to help them. So, kudos to them for expanding a program and also being inclusive. Yeah.
They have really changed what they do and
Yeah.
raised their efforts in the last 5 to 7 years. They really have.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yes.
This helps me a lot, Amy, now to know this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just
Thanks,
want
Amy.
to, yeah, no problem. And I just want to kind of, as a side note, it goes along with this application, that we know so many kids that have a developmental disability or delay that they also have co-occurring mental health disorders, especially anxiety and depression. And so with this program, it's so cool that it would give them the opportunity to have therapy, learn more about social, because like mental disabilities is social delays is so much of the foundation of those disabilities. So it's just really a neat intervention program, but in a really fun way to give those kids a lot of opportunities to grow and to address their mental health concerns as well.
And when I've been around Ron, I really respect his leadership out there.
I might share my daughter is a mentor of a little girl. She's junior high now. She's been for a number of years. And she does report back regularly to the social worker that is working with that family and give them information. That was impressive.
Yes.
It's just not a volunteer, they plan what they like, what she should be sharing and all that. So I hope it's doing some good.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Bridgeway, which is the transforming lives through work.
Right.
One of the things that struck me on this was what they're new to this area, but their past experience on something that I think is crucial right now, which is getting people into work positions, has been pretty good.
So where have they been? Mostly in the Chicago area before this, Amy?
It sounds like.
Phyllis, I don't know a lot about Bridgeway, but I do know Taylor Davis knows a significant amount about Bridgeway. Can you help us out, Taylor?
Good.
Yeah, so they have their main office is in Galesburg, and then they have different satellite sites. They have a Rockford site, which is the most northern, but then they're in Kewanee, Macomb, Pekin, Normal, and like I said, Galesburg is their main location. I think I'm missing one, but they've been around for quite some time.
Are they relatively new to Bloomington Normal?
Bloomington's office opened in 2010.
Okay.
So they've been around for about 11 years. They've done some good work in the area.
Especially when Taylor was a supervisor there. A lot of good work.
Full disclosure, yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah.
So can you help me? How is their program different than supportive living that we already fund? I mean, supportive employment that we fund at Mark.
Yep, that's a really good question, Phyllis. So supported employment, so between supported employment and Bridgeway, they are both using evidence-based tools to assist individuals in getting employment However, they're using two different evidence-based tools. So they're both still effective, but with Mark First, they use kind of more of a customized employment approach. And then which has a lot to do with like discovery, different tools. And then with Bridgeway, and I have to admit, like supported employment is not my area of expertise, but I did in here, they use, what, do you remember, Taylor, is it IPS?
They use the individual support, supported employment, IPS. So it's it's one-on-one individualized support, so that they do like a vocational assessment, really get to know the skills and what that person actually wants to do as far as work, and then putting in a wraparound support. So they connect with like mental health professionals or their the DD/ID support specialists that are in their lives to help them be successful at work.
And thank you, Taylor. Oh, I'm sorry. And I was just going to quickly say too, so they're different, they're providing different deliveries, and they're also, I think, seeking out like the clients that they're seeking would be a little bit different. So some would probably do better with one evidence-based tool than the other. The other thing too is supported employment that you guys in your the fourth quarter summaries and the annual reports with Mark First is that there is a large waiting list for individuals that are requesting some type of employment assistance. And for Mark First, with the customized employment model and the way that they work with like DRS and state funding, it is very costly. And their program experienced a very large deficit, the supported employment. So they may even have to scale back on some of the numbers of individuals that they're providing customized employment to, or the supported employment to. And so it's really one of those, supported employment or employment programs for individuals with a developmental disability are very costly. They're very needed, but the way that the state funding and structure is set up, they're a hardship on agencies. And so it's not necessarily, we're not necessarily able to expect one agency to carry that burden of that need. And if you guys remember, UCP also had the supported employment programs that had a different model than Mark First. But of course, UCP is no longer the Bloomington area.
Yeah. What struck me is that it was an area that we have been committing a lot of money to and support of that. And I kind of liked it because it was a different agency and maybe a different approach. And let's see whether or not this is going to work really well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of where you were going, Amy. So I appreciate your comments.
Good to know.
All right. Anything else on this? Okay, the next one is Easter seals, which is the.
I love this.
I did too. For not a lot of money.
I know it, and
I'm so glad we can help fund this because
Yeah.
Yeah,
animals bring such joy.
they do, and even if they don't ride, they can be around them. They can see them. They can help out in the.
So they learn to take care of them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I feel the same way. That just struck me like, wow, yes.
I read that and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to go out and observe.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
It's
We
also
could probably work that out.
what?
Yeah. We could probably work that out.
Gotta have a public meeting though.
Well, by just post it, they can come join us.
Yeah.
I'll bring cookies.
Well, there you are.
That's what it
Put that
takes.
in the minutes. Let me put that in the minutes.
And bring some treats for the horses too, would you?
Oh, I grew up with a horse. That was my best friend.
Yeah.
I knew all my secrets.
There you go. All right. Well, I think I know what our feeling is on that. That is good. That one grabbed me. I said, wow.
Yeah.
Homes of Hope. And
It's nice to have them back.
yes, very much so. And
Yeah.
it struck me as another area of people that are lonely and people that are not able to maybe do many things, and we're investing in something that's not going to just be for 1 year, even if we don't fund anything else, where they're going to have their computers and other things. So
Right.
It's going to help the staff too.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, one of the notes I had was that this is a good investment for us because even though the program that we're paying for only goes through the end of this year, it's something that should be able to help them after that.
Yeah.
So
And
I like this.
all of the support's coming from 377. Yeah.
Yes. For this.
Amy, I remember when, was it 2 years ago or was it 3 years now, when you and I made a visit over there? I think that we really became to know them better and work with them and find out how they're doing things. And they are small, but they're doing some nice things. So
That's
yeah, I like this as well.
We need to stay in touch with them.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
Yep. So the dental program that the funding for dental in 2019. So I developed a relationship with Holly and Maureen that work at Homes of Hope. And then, Vern, I remember you joined one of the site visits, but they're very passionate about the people that they serve. And I have had contact with them. They didn't receive any funding in 2020, but I had contact with them especially with Holly, the program manager, over that past year and just in different realms. But yep, Holly reached out like at perfect timing when this money was coming available, just stating they're just like, she has an application that just so many of the individuals living in their homes are just having great challenges because they don't have the technology that everyone really needs right now during this pandemic to be connected. So
Good.
Might be good to
It's just like the old people, just like people in our generation that are trying to get the vaccine
Oh yeah,
and don't have the technical skills. It's really scary.
it is.
Yeah.
There was a nice
Well, this is-
article about the group that Deanna Fauci's in.
Right.
Helping
Yeah.
people do
Right.
that. But
Yeah.
I not just the ones that don't have any skills. I've got a little bit of skills, but it took me a while too.
It's difficult.
It was kind of like rolling the dice for yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And on some of them, you can be up pretty early in the morning.
Amy, you said you have contacts with Holly every now and then.
yes.
It might be good to just stay in touch and see how they're doing, if they need, if they're getting what they need.
Yes, I do. And they know that they're very aware of like the purpose of the 377 funding and the 377 board. And so that's why Holly reached out
Good.
this program. Because again, it's the same thing with Mark Burst and their supported living program. The state does provide a program funding to agencies like Homes of Hope, Mark Burst, but it's very basic, like here's your living expenses. But anything to just improve quality of life really comes down to how county financially helping fund some of the additional that the state does not provide funding for.
Yeah.
So again, just as a reminder, with all of these programs, if you guys, whatever programs you decide to fund, so they will be put into the mix with the contract. So they'll have a contract. And so they'll start following those guidelines in the contract as far as like, I'll just have quarterly contact with them and a site visit. They'll provide reports, except with Easter sales, like you guys read in there, it's only, that week, 2 weeks, or I can't remember, that very short period of time that they would contract to have the horses. And so I would just schedule to meet with them afterwards to get some data and feedback on how that went. But this would help in developing relationships with all of these agencies and having contact at least 4 times a year to see how things are going overall.
And I think that's one of the good things that can come out of this.
Mm.
Okay, the Baby Fold and Fairview Community School.
Oh, that's right. Well, I like this one too. I like it because they're spending $275,000 now.
Yeah.
On the programs. So this, I think, is just for more staff to continue that program, isn't it, Amy? It's an existing program. They just want to add to it. Isn't that right?
Increased supports for the children and the families.
Yeah.
With IEPs. Yeah.
I had to go back and read it several times, and what kind of struck me a little bit is it's the 22% of the kids that have actually a recognized disability or not developing in time, and it sort of triggered. That's what we were doing with Spice for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yes, it was. I had to get over some things about, well, wait a minute, this is in a school system and all of that. How's that going to work? And I think that they're focusing on that, and they're doing it to the right ones, and they're just adding to it. I don't think there's any additional staffing, and they're just doing more. So.
Yes. So this one too, like this is a pretty new concept for the 377 board.
Yeah.
So with the Board of Health, the embedded, kind of like an embedded school program, that pilot started in, I think, 2016, 2017. And so the way that works is like there's, so like, for example, the Baby Fold, they would have an embedded therapist, embedded counselor, social worker. They would have that person at the school providing additional support. So they provide, so through this embedded school concept, they provide support to the kids that are in need that would not otherwise receive that additional support because the school provides specific support like we've talked about, or the schools have very limited staffing in those respects to provide to these kids. So what the Baby Fold is requesting from you guys is they're embedded in this school. It's a community school. The Baby Fold is currently, they have the relationship established with this school. They're in there. But what they've noticed, so the 22% of the kids that have an IEP, so the reason they have an IEP is because there's some type of disability. So in order for a kid to have an IEP within a school, an individualized education plan, there has to be some type of disability that is identified. And so that's 22% is a really high number for one elementary school to have kids with an IEP. So what I've seen from the school report cards for McLean County, it's usually more around like 8 to 12% kids have an IEP. So in this school, which is one of the reasons why it is a community school, because it's receiving those extra resources from nonprofits in the community. So 22% of those kids, 1 out of 5 has a disability in this school. In this elementary school, very high number. And so when I talked to Laura Beavers, because she was the director and the one that did this application, when I talked to her about this program, she said, and just the community school in general, she just said, like, we've identified like this need, these kids have these IEPs, which then like their family needs additional support. They need like the wraparound services. And so what they're really wanting to do is take this existing program and then with the 377 funding, really hone in on these kids that have some type of developmental disability on these IEPs, like how can we provide them additional support?
Good. Yeah, this is another agency that I think it's probably good for us to be connected with some.
Yes. Yeah. The Baby Fold is has a multitude of services that they provide, and they do provide, like mental health, human services. They also have even oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, the school specific to kids with autism.
Hammett
What
School?
is it?
Hammett
Hammett.
Yep.
School?
Yep. So they are the agency that runs the Hammett School. They do a lot of developmental screenings. I mean, they really, the baby fold is huge, is a very large, has a very large place in the developmental disability world
Yes.
for children.
Okay, that's our seven agencies.
So I think, and I'm not sure if there's further discussion needed, but real quick, as far as Mary, she wasn't able to join us today. She did provide feedback as far as funding. So besides Boys and Girls Club, which I'll come to that here in a second, she said provide full funding to all of the agencies at the request is her feedback. And it's just feedback. Of course, like we can't count her vote since she's not present, but she just wanted her feedback to be known. And with Boys and Girls Club, she had the same as you guys. So she was also under the assumption that they were not specifically targeting, I hate to use the word targeting, but targeting, looking at including the kids that had developmental disabilities. She thought it was
Focusing on.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Focusing on. Such a better word than target. Focusing on. Thank you. So she was under the assumption that it was just kind of a general, here's mental health for kids. And so she was not in favor of including those or funding that program for that reason. But so I just wanted to share that so you have that information. But of course, we've identified that was not accurate.
Well, until you explained it, I was almost there myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely why I had actually Phyllis. I think it was Phyllis that I talked to yesterday. Yesterday.
No, that was Jan.
Jan. It was Jan I talked to yesterday. Sorry, Jan. It was Jan I talked to yesterday, and she said, "Can you reach out to them?" And that gave me the ability to go ahead and contact them and get more information. So no, that was.
Yeah, you really helped on this today.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I'm not sure if you guys have any other feedback, but I think we will need, and I can't remember from our past meeting, we just did this. Do we have to approve each funding one individually, or do we do it as a group? And I cannot remember, and I should remember, but I don't remember.
Because of some of the discussions around the programs that we approved, we had to do them one by one.
Okay. And one by one is probably the safest.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Mark first program was the one that there was really a lot of discussion on.
Okay.
I'm open to either. We could do them one by one if that's the best. Is that like roll call or something?
I wonder
I know
if Samantha has any thoughts
Yes.
on this.
Hi there. Okay, so we're
Hi,
talking
Sam.
about our discussion items. Are you ready to move on for your action item?
Action.
Well, I only see two things for action, right? A and B.
So Samantha, what we can't remember, what we're asking is, so there's 7 agencies that requested funding. Do they approve them, all of those funding requests as a whole, or do they have to individually go through each funding request and approve each one individually?
I would do it as a whole, primarily because it's listed all together under one item. In the future, if you had them listed all separately, you could make that choice. You could decide if you want to go one or together. But in this case, I would do them all together.
And I think the opportunity for a board member is there to say, I'd like to pull this one out and vote on it separately if we ever felt that way.
Yeah, you could pull one off. Yeah.
All right, we've had the discussion and now it's up to.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It's now an opportunity for us to decide on the funding. Does anyone have a motion they would like to make? Phyllis?
I'll make the motion to approve the 7 requests as they were made to us for a total of $205,550.48. Right, Amy?
Yes, yep, that is the amended amount.
I will
I'll make
second.
that motion.
Jan, you're going to second it? That's fine. Maybe there should be a roll call vote on this then.
Yes.
Amy?
Guinness,
Yes?
Phyllis Bursty,
Yes,
and Jan Hood.
Yes.
Thank you. I think this has been a wonderful experience for us. I was so pleased to see how many were there, and I can see the connecting back with them for the future, and then others still that might find their way back to 377 or say, hey, well, look what they did. So, do we have anything on approval of minutes?
Well, they just always let them know we appreciate the shorter version of the minutes. Thank you.
Let's see, that was for the last meeting that we had. Is that correct, Amy? That were
Yeah.
approved.
That was the last meeting, yes.
Okay.
And that's the only minutes that, yep, we're up to date on having all minutes approved.
Yeah.
Because the last meeting.
Until the last one, okay.
Yep.
Anyone want to make any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Jan. Phyllis, would you? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
second.
So I'll go
Aye.
ahead and do a roll call again. Vern
Roll
McGinnis.
call.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
You gotta do a roll call.
All right, let's go ahead and do the roll call. Vern McGinnis,
Yes.
Phyllis Bursty,
Yes.
Dan Hood.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any other business to go before us?
The only other thing I have for you guys is in the packet I provided you, it did have the fourth quarter summary reports and the annual report. The summary that I usually provide you guys just on how the program. So all those programs, that was the last of the reports for 2020. And just a reminder that the Mark First Spice Pediatric Therapy, that program that ended in 2020 as far as 377 funding. It hasn't ended as an agency, but as far as 377 funding, that program is no longer receiving funding. They were able to sustain in other ways. And the Easter Seals, the Autism Diagnostic Center, that was the last that you guys will see of any reports from that program as of now, because they have sustained funding in a different way also. It just, any questions or feedback on any information I provided you guys on that fourth quarter summary or annual report?
Okay. Amy, just if you could just give a brief summary of, this is an unusual process we just went through. What do you do now?
I'm sorry, what was that question, Vern?
What do you do now? What's your next steps on implementing the motion that we just approved?
Yeah, sure. So what I will do next is I will get their all of their paperwork together. So their contract, I'll get that put together. The things that they need for a monthly financial report, their quarterly reports, I'll get that put together. So the next steps, Vern, is sometime probably within the next 2 weeks, Jeff Paternoster, our office support specialist, will be reaching out to you, hopefully by the end of March, to sign off on these 7 contracts.
All the contracts, right.
Yep, sign off on these 7 contracts to get them executed. So we're ready for them to go April 1st. And then as far as with these agencies, I will just reach out to them. Some of them, like the Boys and Girls Club or a few others, there might be a few tweaks to their outcomes to make them a little more specific to what the 377 board is looking for, specific to developmental disabilities. And then so I'll just reach out to them to see what assistance they need from us to get them going April 1st. So as far as site visits, I will schedule their first quarter will be April, May, and June. Their reports will be due the end of July. And so I will meet with them officially in August. And so they'll just be part of that rotation.
Yes. Yeah. I think this really bodes well for the 377 board. I really mean that. It's some steps forward. Feel
Yes,
good.
It really
Yeah,
is.
I definitely agree. And as far as like the behavioral health program in the as we were thinking about 2021 goals in our logic model, it was apparent that it was also very important to us for more agencies to be involved in the 377 board, for the 377 board to have more of a presence in the community. And so when this request for proposal came out for the April 1st through December 31st, we did make sure that as far as what we knew as all developmental disability agencies or agencies that provided any resources to individuals with a developmental disability, we made sure that they all had access to the RFP, that they knew that there was plenty of money available for funding. You guys were interested in seeking new programs. And so I think that that is what really triggered the 6 either new or coming back agencies to apply. That was really exciting for the behavioral health program as well.
Does this suggest that we may have learned some things about how we can send our messages out and they really connect and they go all out and they're inviting and please come try?
Yes. And I think that this will, because part of, so I'm really glad that these agencies are receiving funding, and that definitely is an easy gateway for that connection and establishing relationships. But even from the behavioral health program, from our standpoint, even just different community groups or different collaborations, we want to expand on those that represent developmental disabilities. And so we want to have, yes, we definitely just want to have more of a health department and 377 board presence in the community. And so I think that this is definitely a huge step in that direction.
I was impressed with the uniqueness and the spread of the programs.
Yes. Yep.
Very good.
I think
you,
it's definitely.
I appreciate it. All right.
Yes.
Do we have anything else
Good
before?
job, Amy.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you. I'm sorry, Amy.
I'm sorry. They just said good job, Amy. I just want to make sure it's good job, Amy, Taylor, and Jeff. I appreciate the compliment, but it was us as a team that.
Good. Good to know.
Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we have
And
a
Jeff.
motion and a second to adjourn. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Do we have to do another?
I don't think we have to do a roll call for closing.
Maybe in my role, I can
Say.
declare that means that we can adjourn.
Okay.
All right, we're good. Thank you so
Call me.
much, everybody.
Call for contracting and we'll get inside. I'll come down there and get inside.
Okay.
Be
All right,
safe
we'll be in
and
contact
Great
soon.
job.
enjoy.
All right,
Yeah.
everyone have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Samantha. Thank you,
Thank you.
Taylor.
Bye-bye.